In this video, we're going to break down a 1-month SAT study plan into 7 steps, which are going to help you improve as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible on your own. Now, these 7 steps are really the core framework I use that helps me consistently have students after every single SAT get scores like this. But the goal is by the end of this video, you're going to feel comfortable enough with all of these 7 steps that you're going to be able to guide yourself through the process and avoid the common mistakes and pitfalls that many students hit. Now, as we're going through these 7 steps, they're all going to tie together, so it's really important to watch this video from front to end because all of the little pieces are going to make a big difference in improving your score as much as possible. Now, our first step is going to be to take a diagnostic test. This is going to let us identify areas of weakness and help us know exactly where we should be focusing so we can start to improve as much as possible in as short of a time period as possible. Now, I want you to take this test in particular because later in the video, I'm going to talk about where you can find individually recorded explanations for all of the questions there, which is going to kickstart your learning process in a really great way. Now, I also, as you are taking this test, want you to do 2 important things. The first is take the test in one big sitting. This is going to let you get used to the mental stamina, let you understand how the general pacing of the test works. And the second thing is you are taking the test, I want you to mark any questions that you feel a little bit iffy on in less than 100% confident, because this is going to let us, after grading up the test, not only identify areas where we missed questions, but also areas where we definitely have a little bit of a deficiency and some content or strategies that we need to address so we can get those right 100% in the future. Now, once you've completed your practice test and graded it up for any of the questions that we marked that we felt iffy on, as well as any of the questions that you missed, I want you to go through this diagnostic sheet and create a list for each of the different sections of the test for what concepts and what question types you need to focus on. Now, the chapter numbers that you're going to see here for writing and language, as well as how the reading questions are classified, corresponds to the books and PDFs in our reading and writing language courses, but you can absolutely use these question types and you can use free or other resources, and I'm going to talk about some good ones later on in the video to still help you address those concepts. So these diagnostic sheets really are just going to serve as a great tool. So after taking this diagnostic test, you know exactly where you should be focusing your time and energy. We're going to use these at the end of every practice test we complete. Now, step 3 is going to be to learn from those mistakes. So in the description below, I'm going to link where you guys can access these, but for every single question that you missed, I just want you to watch those videos as well as for the ones you felt iffy on and take some notes. Make sure you're starting to learn where you went wrong in the process and where you can go right in the future. And you guys are going to be able to access this completely for free by simply entering the code YouTube at checkout. Now, our next step is going to be for the next 7 to 10 days. We are about to dig deep and address all of those question types and concepts that we struggled on from that diagnostic test. Now, watching through the explanations is going to give you a good basic foundation, but we want to make sure we know the concepts really well so we don't know just how to get that question right again in the future, but any question which is closely related to that concept. So this means grammar rules, reading strategies, understanding what's making answer choices right versus wrong, how to deal with those 2-part reading questions, all the math concepts that are tested. This is where we really want to focus our time, and we want to make sure we're doing practice questions so we feel really comfortable applying those concepts in the future. Now, for free resources, there are a ton more videos on this YouTube channel that can help you out. There are reading playlists, writing and language playlists, test explanations. I have my last minute tips as well as my 1-week tips video, which goes over some great strategies for helping you quickly improve on the reading and writing and language sections. Additionally, Khan Academy is a great free resource. Some of the lessons aren't taught in the best possible way, and they don't go into depth into a lot of the concepts covered on the test, but for being completely free, it's a great place you can use that list of concepts and still go and address those deficiencies. Now, for math books, there's really only 2 that I can vouch for. College Panda is a great resource. It is lacking some of the types of questions that showed up in the more recent years. Our math book really is just a more up-to-date version of College Panda. For English and reading, Erica Meltzer has 2 great books. They're a little bit dense. They can sometimes be hard to get through, but they really cover the rules and give you an understanding for the test. Now, if you're looking to do this in a month, I would instead just recommend you join us for 1 month. It's $99, which is going to be just as expensive as buying all those books. but you're going to get in-depth lessons, video explanations, which really help you improve on the question types, and you're going to get a lot more with test explanations and hard problem sets. But at the bare minimum, I strongly recommend checking out our free trial because we're going to cover the sentence structure rules and run through a lot of the quadratic stuff, which is a huge gap for a ton of students. Now, the fifth step is one that a lot of students skip over, but it can really help supercharge your SAT improvement process. And this is before you take your next practice test. I want you to always go back and revisit all of the prior practice tests you've taken and the questions that you've missed. I know this is a little bit grueling, but it really pays off and you're going to start to improve so much quicker. This is also going to let you know if you did a good job of studying those concepts, because if you look back at those questions you missed and you don't really know exactly how to get them right, that's going to give you a good idea that, hey, I need to drill into this particular type of rule more. But by looking back at those mistakes, it's going to really help you for a few reasons. The first, as I said, it's going to help you assess how good your learning was before you take the next practice test. If there's concepts you're still iffy on, if you get to colon question, you're like, oh, I don't remember those rules so well, go back and review those colon rules before you take the next practice test. It's also going to help you start to identify the patterns of the test and identify for you in particular what type of questions you have to be especially careful of. And this is going to let you have little light bulb moments as you're going through your next test where you're going to look at something and be like, oh, I missed this, but I know I was actually supposed to do this. Or this is a question that I know I make a silly mistake on before, and you're going to be more aware of it. And this is going to help you start to improve way, way faster as you're going through. Now, step 6 is where a lot of what we've already done is going to start to repeat. We're going to take another practice test. We're going to mark any questions we feel a little iffy on as we're taking it. We're going to grade it up. We're going to really carefully review those mistakes. We're going to avoid hindsight bias where we look back at something and it feels so obvious now that we don't really dig into that concept. If you missed a question, make sure you are having a learning moment from it and make sure you can explain in simple terms like you would have to a younger sibling why one answer choice is correct and the other 3 are wrong. If you can't do that, we probably still have some content or strategy issues that we need to address around that concept. And that's where we're going to use another diagnostic sheet so we know before we take the next practice test what concepts and what areas we need to be focusing on learning the rules, as well as doing specific practice on. So if we get a similarly related question on a future test, we know how to get it right. And that's all we're really going to be doing, rinse and repeat up until we get to the test. We want to do this with as many tests as we can get through, but the really important part is reviewing those mistakes from previous tests. And that learning that takes place in between those tests, that's really going to help us improve. Now, step 7 is actually something I want you to do throughout the entire process. This is going to be to create 2 separate cheat sheets. Now, our first cheat sheet is going to be all of the rules and concepts and strategies that we've learned that help us improve. So after that first diagnostic test, you're probably going to have a big list of things we have to address, but as you learn colon rules, write them down on your cheat sheet. As you learn math formulas, as you learn strategies for solving math problems, put them down on that cheat sheet so you have your own personal study guide of where you really need to focus and what stuff you need to look back on so we can keep improving. Now, the second thing I want you to do is to create a mistake tracker. So after each test in each section, really start to write down, and this is something you're doing with those diagnostic sheets already, what types of questions you're missing, and then as you go test to test, monitor where your progress is, because by keeping track of these and identifying where you're improving and where you're not improving, it's going to let you know what things you really have to dig into deeper and maybe do extra practice passages of reading or practice sections of a certain part of the test so that we can really make sure we get past that sticking point and we can improve further. Now, I really hope this video has helped you out and given you a strong foundation for what you should do, but for a really quick recap, we're going to take a diagnostic test. We're going to use that to create our own custom study guide. I want you to use those video explanations that are linked below to kick off your general understanding of the test. And then from there, you're going to spend 7 to 10 days diving into those concepts. And then we're going to start to really rinse and repeat with reviewing previous tests, taking another test, creating our diagnostic sheets, and all along the way, we're going to be filling out those 2 cheat sheets we're going to have for the rules we have to know, as well as tracking our mistakes. Now, if you do this, you really should notice consistent progress as you're going through. So if this has helped you out, please drop a like, subscribe, turn on notifications for future videos. And if you guys have any SAT study tips that have really helped you out, drop them in the comments below. And if you also have any general questions as you're working through this process or about studying for the SAT in general, pop them in the comments below.